You said that you wanted a boxing champion.
Yeah, for sure.
You're okay with an MMA champion, but you wanted a boxing champion.
Boxing for sure. The money is
More money. Yeah.
more money. Why not?
Would that be an outcome for him? No.
He's 3 more fights on the contract now.
Okay.
And I don't want to sign a new contract.
Okay.
Personally.
If you listen to this interview, Dana White sounds like he'd rather walk barefoot over hot coals than talk about Tom Aspinall one more time. He's sitting there throwing around the phrase boxing money, and you can instantly feel it. This isn't a love letter to his heavyweight champ. It's that quiet, passive-aggressive, do whatever you want, kid, just not with me energy. To max. The air between them is thicker than Francis Ngannou's neck. And honestly, anyone who thinks Dana and Tom ever had a real working relationship probably also believes Jake Paul fights out of pure love for the sport. After UFC 321, the drama was out in the open. Tom gets poked in the eye mid-fight, Dana shows zero sympathy, not even the classic hope he's okay, nothing. Just that cold poker face like someone just told him coffee prices went up. And the best part, you can practically see Dana mentally grabbing a Sharpie and crossing Tom's name off his favorite fighters list. What's behind that reaction runs deeper than a bad press moment. It smells like family tension, money problems, and wounded egos. What Tom's father, Andy Aspinall, said publicly right after that was either incredibly brave or incredibly dumb. The kind of comment that could make even Dana White's forehead vein hire its own PR agent.
Now, something you're pushing him towards now is a potential boxing super fight. You've said that you want to see him go into boxing and earn a big payday. How has Tom received that? Does Tom want to go into the boxing world and maybe fight a Tyson Fury, maybe fight a Deontay Wilder?
I don't know if he does, but I think if you get into that top percentage of the sport, the UFC do not pay anywhere near as much as the boxing does. And I know from being around Tom every day that when he spars good boxers, he spars good.
And there it is, the moment Andy Aspinall basically drops a Dana White hand grenade live on camera. The man just says, yeah, of course boxing pays better, so why not? You can picture Dana listening, trying to stay as calm as a toaster in a bathtub. Tom still has 2 fights left on his UFC contract, yet his dad's talking like they're already on their way to Matchroom Boxing to sip champagne with Eddie Hearn. That's like saying at your wedding, I'm happy, but hey, if this doesn't work out, Tinder's still open. And honestly, Andy's not wrong. Boxing is a completely different financial universe. A journeyman like Derek Chisora pockets $4 million just to get flattened by Tyson Fury, while Tom probably still has to check his own hotel invoice after a UFC event. But here's where it gets dangerous. The UFC lives off loyalty and hates when someone publicly talks about alternatives. Dana hears the word boxing and instantly translates it to betrayal on camera with a microphone. So while Andy's words might sound like honest fatherly concern, to Dana it's more like, hey boss, we're halfway out the door, thanks for nothing. And instead of cooling things down, Andy dumps gasoline on the fire with one sentence that sends Dana White into press conference rage mode for weeks.
I'd love him to have a very highly paid boxing match for the money.
Papa Aspinall drops the line that probably made gray hair sprout in Dana White's eyebrows on the spot. Highly paid boxing match, and that's basically UFC code for we're done with your Stone Age paychecks. And the tragic part? Andy doesn't even mean it in a hostile way. He's just honest. Too honest. He talks like a guy thinking out loud at a pub, except there's a 4K camera pointed straight at him. Sure, it's completely understandable that a father wants the best for his son. But in Dana White's world, honest equals disloyal. And anyone who knows Dana knows this. The man has the memory of an elephant on espresso and the grudge capacity to match. Need proof? Just ask Henry Cejudo. He defended his belt, dropped a cheeky, I'm out, I retire, to crank up contract pressure. And Dana reacted like an ex who's never texting back again. 2 years of radio silence. No hype, no love, nothing. When Cejudo finally returned, boom, lost to Aljo. Career momentum dead. Since then, he's been treated like a shadow of his own legacy. Instead of being celebrated, he's used to prop up the next wave of UFC favorites. A final boss for newcomers rather than a star. And that's no coincidence. That's Dana's system. If you go public to demand more money, you don't get a raise. You get the cold shoulder, awkward matchups, and that polite, sorry, nothing for you right now smile. And guess what? Andy Aspinall clearly never read that playbook, because now, with father and son openly talking about their plans on camera, Dana sees just one thing: a fighter who isn't loyal. And in Dana's world, loyalty outranks pay-per-view numbers, but Andy isn't backing down. If anything, he doubles down, firing another shot straight at Dana's ego, and this time, it hits dead center.
Are you surprised when he got announced as the heavyweight champion, the undisputed heavyweight champion, that maybe the UFC could have done a little bit better in terms of just announcing it on the back end of the card?
Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
But the UFC is the UFC. They do what they want. Not just for Tom, for John Jones. You know, John Jones has retired. Mm-hmm. We've got a new champion. I just think it could have been done a lot better.
This is the moment Andy Aspinall strolls unarmed into a full-on PR massacre. He casually says he didn't like the way the UFC crowned his son the undisputed champion. And somewhere in Las Vegas, you can almost hear a vein popping in Dana White's forehead. For most people, that sounds harmless. To Dana, it's blasphemy, and in his mind, Andy just insulted the show. And that's something you never do. Dana isn't just the promoter. He's the director, screenwriter, and leading man of his own reality soap. Andy, meanwhile, just speaks his mind. No filter, no PR handler, no maybe cut that part. He's so honest, it's dangerous. The storyteller in me loves it, a father standing up for his son, but the analyst in me knows Dana White hates it because he doesn't share the spotlight, especially not with someone implying the UFC could have done that better. And just like that, Andy accidentally lights the fuse. He no longer looks like a negotiator, he looks like a rebel. And if Dana's good at one thing, it's sending rebels into contractual purgatory where careers quietly fade away. But before Dana can even react, Tom himself drops a bomb. A statement about friendship, loyalty, and championship gold. And it's the kind of line that makes Dana White's jaw lock instantly.
How would this go?
So the thing is, if I'd never won a title, I'd never touched gold before, we would have to fight. Because that's my dream.
Yeah.
Well, now I've done it, I would be like, I'll vacate it and he can have his time.
Fair. Really? So if it comes to it, you're just not fighting him?
I wouldn't fight him. No chance.
Fair.
No chance.
Damn. Fucking
No.
props.
That's my
really?
guy. Yeah.
And there it is. Tom Aspinall, and freshly crowned heavyweight champ, flat out says he wouldn't fight his friend. No hesitation. No, we'll see what Dana says. Just a calm, solid, no chance. And you can picture Dana White sitting somewhere, frozen in place, thinking, did he just say no chance on camera? From a human standpoint, it's actually admirable. A fighter putting loyalty above money is rare in this game. But from Dana's point of view, that sounds like someone who can't be controlled. And if there's one thing Dana White hates, it's a fighter who says no. But let's be honest, this isn't the real reason Dana's icy toward Tom. The friendship angle is just surface level drama. The real detonator is that triple combo of question mark, we're underpaid, we want to box, and we're saying it out loud on camera. To Dana, that's like someone wearing a Bellator t-shirt during a UFC main event. And let's be real, fighters refusing certain matchups is nothing new. Merab and Aljo said they'd never fight each other. Cain Velasquez and Daniel Cormier, same story. Tyron Woodley and Ben Askren, ditto. Dana's seen it all before, but mix that with public pay criticism and you can literally see his inner Vince McMahon coming to life. That's when it becomes crystal clear Tom's biggest problem isn't his loyalty, it's his honesty. He and his dad are just too real for the game they're in. And in the UFC, honesty is the fastest ticket to career quarantine. And if you think Dana was pushed to his limit here, wait till you see how he's handled his previous heavyweight champs. Because Tom's story isn't new, it's a tradition.
Have you been treated the way you should be treated in this sport?
By the UFC, by the promotion I fought for most of my career, I would have to say no.
Why?
Because it's personal with Dana. I've never.
Were you too big?
I think I was one of the only guys, or the first guy, to stand up, had representation and management that understood what ancillary rights were and all these things that they're sliding into these contracts, and we fought for that stuff, and they didn't like it. I was never one of the boys, never one that would just sign it all over and let them do whatever they wanted. I wanted to control my own destiny. I saw myself as a brand, and fought hard for some of that stuff, and they didn't like that.
And there he is, Randy Couture, the OG champ who had the guts to say what everyone else was thinking. The UFC doesn't treat its fighters like champions. They treat them like action figures you can swap out when you're bored. And with that one line, Randy committed Dana White's cardinal sin number 1. He said out loud that the system is unfair. Back then, Randy wanted to fight Fedor Emelianenko, the Russian myth who never fought in the UFC. But instead of seeing that as a dream fight, Dana grabbed his emergency kit labeled ego and lawyers. He sued Randy, blocked the fight, and officially kicked off what would become the heavyweight curse, a decades-long pattern of beefs with every big man who dared to question the throne. Here's the thing, Randy wasn't some rebel punk. He was a veteran, a pioneer, the kind of guy who should have been in the Hall of Fame while singing the national anthem at the same time. But in Dana's world, only one rule matters. If you challenge me, you're out. Couture had the spine to say publicly that he wasn't being paid fairly. That alone was enough to turn a UFC hero into the first official enemy of the Empire. From that day on, the message was clear. Negotiate with me, but never ever contradict me in public. What Randy went through became the template for every heavyweight feud that followed. And from then on, it was open season. One by one, champs would clash with Dana White. Careers turned into cold wars. Champions turned into personas non grata. And if you thought Dana learned his lesson from the Randy disaster, think again. With the next champ, Fabricio Werdum, things went from silent treatment to all-out verbal warfare.
Werdum do not have a good relationship. At all. At all.
What about the incident in Australia?
Yeah, it's just it's just a continued. This is what this guy does. He almost fights Tony Ferguson at the media luncheon. There's a laundry list of me and Werdum.
When Dana White says "at all," you already know this isn't a disagreement anymore. This is full-on Mortal Kombat level beef. And Fabricio Werdum? He was never the kind of guy to keep quiet. He openly said fighters were underpaid, accused the UFC of playing favorites, and the ultimate sin, he even supported the idea of a fighters union. That was it. In Dana's eyes, Werdum had just entered a category usually reserved for exiled Sith Lords. Great fighters, terrible company men. Dana went into damage control mode instantly. He started trashing Werdum in interviews, calling him unprofessional, difficult, and trying to paint him as some ticking time bomb ready to swing at every press conference. Classic Dana playbook. If you criticize the system, they turn you into the problem. But the truth? Werdum wasn't being difficult, he was being honest. He was talking about real issues, pay, respect, and fairness. The kind of topics that go over in the UFC about as well as asking for a raise in Dana's office. Just like with Randy Couture, the message was clear again. Dana doesn't hate tough fighters. He hates fighters who think and talk. Werdum wasn't a PR nightmare, he was a wake-up call. And Dana White doesn't do wake-up calls. He hits snooze and fires you instead. But Dana still wasn't done. The next heavyweight champ, Stipe Miocic, was too successful, too quiet, and way too independent. And somehow that made things even worse.
Do you feel like you are, being treated like a big-time champion? Do you like the way that they're compensating you these days?
I definitely can be better. My last fight, my challenger made more money than me.
Wow. The Overeem fight?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that going into the fight or only found out about it afterwards?
After.
What was your reaction?
Terrible. Things definitely give you a change. Something's gonna change. It's not really fair.
Of course, yeah, especially since you were the draw, the guy who sold out the arena.
And there it is. One sentence that says it all. Stipe Miocic, the heavyweight GOAT, firefighter, family man, and model professional, sitting there calmly saying, "My opponent made more than I did." That's like the guy who puts out the fire getting paid less than the one who started it. Stipe was never loud. No trash talk, no antics, no circus. He just wanted to fight, win, and go back to work saving lives. But to Dana White, that was the problem. He was too decent. No chaos, no drama, no clickbait. Because he didn't play the game, the interviews, the beef, the headlines. He got what the UFC calls champion minus bonus. Then came Francis Ngannou, louder, stronger, untouchable, and he made the one mistake you never make with Dana White. He didn't just ask for more money, he asked for respect. When you talk about Dana White's wrath, two names always come up: Francis Ngannou, the guy with sledgehammers for fists, and John Jones, walking chaos wrapped in talent. Francis was everything the UFC ever wanted: power, charisma, highlight reel knockouts. Then he did the unthinkable. He asked, "Why am I getting paid like a rookie when I'm the most dangerous man on earth?" And somewhere inside Dana's head, you could hear the low hum of, "Oh no, not again." From that moment on, things turned ice cold. Francis wanted fair pay. Dana wanted control. When Ngannou refused to sign a new deal on Dana's terms, White let him walk and called it a business decision. But everyone knew what it really was: a power move, a silent attempt to exile the King of Africa from the throne room. Then came John Jones, Dana's eternal favorite and his biggest migraine. Jones came back, won the belt, and people thought, okay, maybe the feud days are over. But the moment he hit the spotlight again, Dana refused to book him for the White House card. Scheduling issues, he said. Yeah, right. That wasn't logistics. That was a message. Two champions, two absolute legends, and both locked in the same Cold War with the boss. The pattern couldn't be clearer. Whether you're Randy Couture, Stipe Miocic, or Francis Ngannou, sooner or later, you end up in a feud with Dana White. Because in the UFC, there's one golden rule. There's room for only one alpha, and he's not the one in the octagon. And that's exactly why Tom Aspinall fits right into this cursed lineage. If you think Dana's suddenly gonna play nice with him, you haven't been paying attention to UFC history. So where do we stand? Dana White, self-proclaimed king of the fight business, versus Tom Aspinall, the smart, grounded guy who just wants to fight without selling his soul. It's a combo as volatile as Khabib and a beer bottle at a press conference. Let's look at the pattern. Every time a heavyweight thinks he's earned enough clout to ask questions: why do boxers make more? Why don't you promote me properly? What the same thing happens, Dana flips the switch to Ice King mode. He freezes careers, hands out weird matchups, and leaves fighters sitting for months with no fights. Not because they're bad, but because they didn't obey. And Tom, he and his father Andy hit that button without even realizing it. They said out loud what everyone else whispers. They were open about money, loyalty, and their future. And in Dana's world, that's more dangerous than any right hook. Now Tom stands exactly where almost every UFC heavyweight legend once stood. Randy, Werdum, Stipe, Francis, all of them eventually became problem fighters. Not because they failed, but because they dared to want more than glory and a pat on the back. And let's be honest, if Dana can't have you, he'll make sure no one else can. That's his playbook. He doesn't send texts, he writes narratives. But here's the twist. Tom probably knows all of this. He knows honesty might cost him what others are too afraid to lose. And that's exactly what makes him fascinating. While other fighters battle to stay in Dana's good graces, Tom's only fighting for himself. But trust me, this story is far from over. The next chapter in Dana's heavyweight saga is going to be louder, pettier, and way more personal. And believe me, you won't believe who's next.
Nothing we can do about it, but this has highlighted at a high level in the sport that it's dangerous. If they want to do something about it, they should. If they care about people, they should. And it's back to everybody has opinions. Everybody needs money as well. It's about, I don't have to say what I say or do what I do to report back to shareholders to make money for a company. I do this because it's a sport. I want to do it with my son. I want to spend time with my kids. The other people who are doing it to report back to shareholders at the highest level.
Andy nails it. This whole thing is bigger than business. It's about fighters, honor, and how much truth the UFC machine can actually handle. Because while Dana sees numbers, Andy sees his son. And while the world debates paychecks, this story is about something deeper: power, pride, and control. Tom Aspinall now stands in the middle of that storm. And honestly, it feels like the start of a new era. An era where fighters aren't afraid to speak up, where they don't just throw punches, they throw words. And you know what that means. The next time Dana White sees a heavyweight talking too loudly about boxing or money, the air will start to crackle before anyone even says octagon. Because believe me, what's coming next in the UFC will blow everything out of the water. New rivalries, new faces, even more chaos. And you won't believe who's about to feel Dana White's fury next. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, drop a comment about Dana's treatment of his heavyweights, and subscribe so you don't miss a single second of the next MMA drama. Because this isn't the end. This was only round one.